Hey, good evening, and thank you for joining us or good afternoon. I'm actually recording this at like midnight on Saturday, because I'll be out of town, or not out of town, but with friends during the airing of this episode. So, if there are any changes in the morning, sorry, can't help you there. But thanks for joining this Scabbard. I'm Dave Valente. It is the final game before our long NHL bye week combined with the All Star break. So every team gets like I think it's 5 days before the All Star break or 5 days after the All Star break to get ready for as a break in the season, kind of like what the NFL does with bye weeks for the NFL teams. The Sabres will have about 10 days off between the end of this road trip and the start of their homestand in February. So this will be the last game of January here on the 27th, and we won't play again until February 6th when we play Dallas. So um, before we get started in the game, there are a couple of NHL stories to note, and I forgot to mention it the other night when we did the Kings broadcast. And with this being recorded, we won't be doing getting into chat or any comments. But feel free to drop comments in the chat. I'll probably be monitoring chats, and we'll be happy to respond to you. Uh, Via the old-fashioned post way. But uh, so no live chat tonight. But yeah, so a couple of stories that broke. The Hockey Canada scandal. I covered this one. I did the Thursday Night Hockey show um, last season. The fact that Hockey Canada, I think it was 2 seasons ago, that Hockey Canada, there was a scandal where apparently a young lady had been raped during a club function. I'm not sure if it was before or after the tournament. Um, Several players were allegedly involved, and Hockey Canada used funds that players in Canada have to pay when they pay their league fees, or player fees, for younger players. Um, and it wasn't the first time. There was also a 2003, I believe, incident in Canada. But the 2018 one festered. Hockey Canada tried to pay off this young lady, and the story broke. And ever since then, the question of which players were involved in this has been swirling around. And we've had several players that were on Team Canada in the 2018. And remember, 2018, I believe, was the year that the tournament was in Buffalo. This incident occurred across the border in Ontario, I think in Hamilton, but I could be wrong. But this week, the names started coming out. Five players, not officially announced by Hockey Canada, but five players mysteriously took leave of absences from their team, and they're believed to be requested to come in and turn themselves into Ontario Police, RCMP, and and yeah, it's happening, and it's not small names. And of course, when you think of a World Junior Hockey Championship team, it's not going to be it's not going to be inconsequential players who never play in the NHL. Five of these players either are NHL players or have played in the NHL. So the absences have been granted to Dylan Dubé, who is a forward with the Calgary Flames, pretty decent forward. Um, Michael McLeod and Cal Foote with the New Jersey Devils. I think Cal Foote was originally a Tampa draft pick, but was on the New Jersey Devils. Alex Formenton, who used to be with the Senators, and I think he was with the Calgary Flames for a bit. He is not playing in the NHL. He was actually with the Swiss League, HC Ambi Periota. Um, and so he was given a leave of absence from his team in Europe. The biggest name, though, is Carter Hart, the goaltender of the Philadelphia Flyers. Um, Honestly, if these guys are guilty of this sexual assault, may they never darken the ice of a professional hockey, arena again. Uh, I don't care if it's ECHL, Southern Hockey League. Um, I don't care how good they are. I don't care that Carter Hart was supposed to be the guy for the Philadelphia Flyers. That's all secondary. Um, the sexual assault of a young lady, by these guys. I won't call them gentlemen, because they clearly weren't. Again, allegedly, um, and it'll be dealt with in the court of law. But I'm glad at least the scales of justice seem to be, balancing on this one, and this young lady will see some justice, hopefully. And I hope that the Canadian justice system is better than, American justice system. I remember the, um, Stanford, was it Stanford swimmer, or diver that, got a slap on the wrist for raping a young lady after a party because, quote unquote, he had a future to, live up to and athletic talent. So hopefully, Canadian justice system is a little stricter on this issue, and I would assume that it probably is. But again, it's hockey in Canada. Um, and you never know. Um, and this should be said, I think, for Hockey Canada, for the fact that it's been covering up this stuff. We're punishing kids, from, Russia and Belarus not able to play in international tournaments because the actions of their government. They have nothing to do with the actions of their government. Um, I I would go on record and say Hockey Canada should be suspended for a couple of international. They shouldn't, be allowed to participate in the next World Championships and the next World Junior Hockey Championships, or maybe a full calendar year suspension from all international and tournaments for their actions, for the cover ups. And if the United States hockey program has the same thing, absolutely same thing. Um, you're not going to get the, hockey organizations to take this seriously unless there's actually serious punishment. Speaking of punishment, Brendan Gallagher got a 5-game suspension for a vicious head check to Adam Pelech of the New York Islanders the other night. I mean, I haven't seen an elbow that egregious since, was it Casparitis threw the one on Pat LaFontaine that pretty much ended his Sabres career. Um, it was a brutal elbow. Like, I mean, it was an absolute chicken wing going across the ice and caught Pelech in the head. Um, Brendan Gallagher had an in person meeting with, the Department of Player Safety for the NHL, which is George Peros, and a couple other folks, and got an absolute slap on the wrist for what he did, for the actual. I mean, going after someone's head like that. If it's a bad check from behind and the guy's face goes into the glass and there's issues, that's one thing. This was the middle of ice, elbow thrown at somebody's head, and they gave him a 5-game suspension for that. An absolute slap in the wrist, and I won't be surprised if this happens more, just because the Department of Player Safety just abdicated its responsibility to protect the players on the ice. Um, yeah, Brendan Gallagher may have a higher profile than Adam Pelech, but it doesn't mean that just because he has a higher profile and on a marginally higher profile team doesn't mean that we should, ignore this and give him a slap on the wrist. 5 games is way too light. Should have been at least it should have been a double digit suspension. Um, and that they didn't do it, they're going to invite more of this action, more of these knuckleheads doing dumb shit on the ice. And then, if somebody skates in and tries to, fight Brendan Gallagher, then they're going to get an instigator penalty, and their team's going to be shorthanded. Um, I still would take the instigator penalty on that one and beat the absolute fool out of that dude if he did that to one of my teammates. But you know, The NHL's now just basically said we're not going to take care of the players on the ice, um, by this action, and they've had some really howlers of decisions when it comes to suspensions this season. Um, and I would like to see George Peros gone from the Department of Player Safety. I just don't think that he takes this job seriously enough. Takes the protection of players seriously enough. And that's if your job is Department of Player Safety, that it should be your first and only responsibility, not protecting teams and players' paychecks. You're protecting players' safety, not their paychecks. All right, so good news. Good news. Yeah, Buffalo won. Now let's say I preface this by saying I told you in the last episode I wouldn't be surprised if the Buffalo Sabres win this game because they have this ability to follow up an absolute dog game with a good win. If you asked me at the end of the first period, I thought, okay, we're just going into a complete swoon. This is a complete collapse that could last us 8 games or so. Um, we couldn't stop the Kings in the first, or at least their speed, and it would allowed them to generate multiple chances and get a 3-1 lead going into the first intermission. JJ Peterka with a fantastic goal to tie the game at 1, but just it does again. It's that slow start of this team. Like they can't get a game started on time, and it's very frustrating. And Devin Levi looked very shaky early. I was critical of them calling him back up for this road trip because his one game in Rochester before the break, he allowed 3 goals on 17 shots. That doesn't give you confidence that he was ready to come back up and play a few games. Um, so Eric Comrie's cooling his heels in Rochester. Um, I think with the break, 10 days, I think we're gonna see Comrie called back up, and Levi sent down. They may not even call Comrie up. They may just send Levi down for the duration of the break and make the decision at the end of the 10 days. But he was shaky. Some of those goals were a little squeaky, and he was a rebound machine. Like absolute, just fumbling the puck away, not really good on the glove, um, and putting pucks into very dangerous positions. The kids line led the way. Quinn Turka and Cousins led the way. If it wasn't for that line, this probably would have been like a 5-1 loss. Um, they really kind of led the way for all the other lines, showing them get on the front foot, attack, high pressure on the forecheck, and it kept the puck in the in the Sabres offensive zone for most of the rest of the game. Um, I I was shocked. I mean, I know that LA struggled. I mean, they lost to our next opponents before they played us. Um, I know that they've struggled, but I've not seen the Kings look that disorganized. And it's not like they have a bunch of injuries that are keeping players off the lineup. I think Magnus Arvidsson is the key injury for the Kings. So it's not an injury issue. It's they're in a swoon, and they can't stop it at this point. Um, but the kids hemmed them in their zone, and then the other lines started to follow, and you started to see. Um, there were some adjustments. Alex Tuck got dropped down to the line with Robinson. Uh, Robinson had a fantastic pass on the game winning goal. The fourth goal of the night went behind the net and then fed Tuck on the back door and beat Cam Talbot, who did not look good at all. I want to say that I think something might have happened to Talbot either on the JJ Peterka goal in the second period that made it 3-2, where he just crashed into Talbot after scoring the goal. Um, couldn't stop himself. Or there were a couple of shots that hit Talbot in the head. Um, but he didn't look right as that game went along. Um, so the Sabres took advantage, 5-3 victory. I've liked Eric Robinson's game every time he's been on the been in the lineup. I've liked his game. Like he's always trying to push the offense forward, trying to get stretch passes and things like that. He's always ready to fly the zone and get in on the offense and play a heavy forecheck game. I've liked Robinson's play. I don't know why they've decided to kind of rotate him in and out. With the injury to Zemgus Girgensson, I hope he has more playing time. I don't know how long Zemgus is going to be out. He played 3 shifts in the LA game before leaving, so there was a rotation of lines during the players up and down the lineup during the game. But that kids line stayed together pretty much the entire time. But I'm hoping that Robinson stays in the lineup and they're not just pulling him out of the lineup so that they don't have to give any compensation to the Columbus Blue Jackets. If we're tossing him like a 7th round pick for Eric Robinson, that's full value. I mean, I think just the way he's played in the short number of games that he's been on the Buffalo Sabres and been in the starting lineup, I think he's full value for a 6th, 7th round draft pick. You know, um, I don't know what the future considerations were, but I know that if he missed 12 games for Buffalo between the time he came from Columbus to Buffalo, the Sabres don't owe the Blue Jackets anything. Um, but I like his play in the lineup. He should be in the lineup. All right, a stat of the night. Talking about our kids line, JJ Peterka had his first multi-goal game in the NHL. 2 goals. Did not get a chance at the hat trick. He was on the ice early in the empty net situation, but he was kind of close to the end of his shift. Never got a real sniff at hitting the empty netter, and then the Sabres went on power play or on the penalty kill towards the end, and were able to kill off the penalty. That was good. Didn't make it too much of a scary game there at the end. Um, but yeah, JJ Peterka, multi-goal game. Congratulations. I really love JJ Peterka's game. I am definitely a fan of JJ Peterka. I think maybe at some point when I purchase my next jersey, because they're due to have like 6 or 7 more jerseys. Like it feels like instead of playoffs, the Buffalo Sabres have given us jerseys. That's pretty much it. So maybe my next jersey purchase will be a JJ Peterka. I know as you've seen on the show, my jersey collection is vast. I have quite a few jerseys. I do need to convert my Eichel jerseys to Benson jerseys. But let's see. Let's talk about our game preview for today. The San Jose Sharks. Record is awful, 13-31-4, but they are playing better. We'll get into that in a moment. They're 8th in the Pacific, so they're still dead last in the NHL, although they are coming up. Hurdle leads the team in goals and points with 15 goals, 34 points, while Granlund leads in assists with 24. And Granlund is out of the lineup. He's on IR. We'll get to that in a minute when we talk about the lineup. Blackwood is the best goalie option for the San Jose Sharks. I expect at some point here pretty soon that Mackenzie Blackwood will get picked up by a team looking to improve their goaltending, whether it's a Devils or who he's played for before. Um, if they don't think that Comrie's an option, I could see Buffalo going for it if they are able to string together some post All-Star break wins and get closer into this into the contest. But yeah, Toronto, I could see doing that. But just a side note, Ilya Samsonov had a 1-0 shutout over Edmonton, or not Edmonton. I'm sorry, Winnipeg. They're one of the better teams in the league. Um, his struggles this season have been well documented, including the game he played against Buffalo, where he looked absolutely lost out there. It was nice to see. I hate the Leafs, but when a guy struggles like that, you feel for them, and It was good to see him kind of get at least himself a little mentally right, if just for a game, coming back and playing for the Leafs. Um, because he did get a stint in the minors. Nobody claimed him, and was able to kind of find himself. So maybe that gets him right. Um, but let's get back to the San Jose Sharks, though. So, last meeting was on January 15th. So, 12 days ago. The Luukkonen saved 28 shots, and we had goals from Middlestat, Tuck, and Greenway for a 3-0 victory. First of two consecutive 3-0 shutouts for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen against the Sharks, and then the Blackhawks the two nights later. The Sharks have won 3 of 4 since that game, and what has changed is Logan Couture is back in the lineup, so they actually have 2 decent lines that, can score, and they beat the Ducks, which we had problems with. Um, then they beat the Kings, which I can see that now after watching that game with the Kings and seeing how fragile that team is right now, and I'm saying that knowing full well that the Sabres are just as fragile. Not surprised that the Kings got it to a shootout, but lost that game. And then they beat the Rangers 3-2. Um, so luckily Blackwood was the guy that got the win against the Rangers, and we're seeing Capo Kakkonen, as the goaltender for the Sharks in this game. So let's take a look at the projected lines for the San Jose Sharks per daily faceoff. We got Hoffman, Hurdle, and Zetterlund on that first line. That's on paper, it's a pretty good first line. Then you have Barabanov with Couture and Anthony Duclair. Again, a lot of speed on that line and veteran talent that line with Barabanov being a younger player, but Couture and Duclair, definitely some veteran experience and lots of speed. Then you have William Eklund with Sturm and Cunnin and Zadina Carpenter and Josh Belly, Buffalo's own Josh Bailey returns on that fourth line for the San Jose Sharks. For the Sharks' projective defensive pairings, we've got Mark Edward Vlasic with Emberson, the NHL debut of Shakir Makamadullin. Makamadullin came over in the trade with the Devils that the name escapes me now, but the big trade last season that got Makamadullin as kind of the key centerpiece of the prospects coming over in that trade with Yanni Ruta, Okachuk, who looked pretty decent in that 3-0 loss with Burrows. And that is your defensive pairings. And as I mentioned, Capo Kakkonen is going to be the starting goaltender with Mackenzie Blackwood backing up. Scratches for the Sharks, they have a legion on that IR. McDonald, Benning, Granlund, Lindblom, Smith, all on IR. Landon Ferraro is out for an undetermined amount of time. He may be like an IR guy that just can't put on the IR at this point. They may need his contract to continue keeping them above the NHL minimum. So, Sabres projected forward lines. Lots of changes with the injury to Zemgus Girgensons and some of the, I guess, the chemistry that Don Granato saw during the Kings game. So we have Skinner Thompson with Okposo, which is interesting. And we did see some of that towards the end of the game on what now is that? Wednesday. Yeah. Um, then we have Quinn Cousins and Maturka. Not going to break that lineup. Uh, Played very well. Then you have Greenway, Middlestat, and Tuck. Benson with Krebs and Robinson on the fourth line. I like that mix there with Krebs and Robinson. Zach Benson. I would turn that line a little loose offensively. And see what you can do. Because again, Robinson likes to stretch the ice. Benson streaks towards the net. Krebs is the distributor. Um, and Krebs, there was a recent article where he said that he's very confident that he'll be an elite player. Love the confidence in the kid. We haven't had it kind of bear out just yet, but He's had flashes in his game that, I think kind of get tamped down because he's been paired with Okposo and Gergensons and not the most offensively gifted players, but very tenacious players. And I think they really have helped Krebs' defensive game blossom in the NHL and become a better center. So maybe when he does take the turn and move up the lineup, as you know, if he can produce, he's going to be all the better. Maybe he's never going to be like a 50 goal scorer, but get him up to 25, 30, chipping in about as many assists and having a solid two-way game, that's good stuff. You don't sneeze at that. That's a guy that can win you a Stanley Cup if he can turn into that. I'm not going to say that Krebs is going to be the reason the Sabres win a Stanley Cup, or if he ever leaves the Sabres, that another team wins the Stanley Cup. But if he can continue to develop his offensive game to match his defensive game, he will be a very good center, a very very good second, third line centerpiece for a team. So let's talk about our defensive pairings with the injury to Samuelson. Looks like he's still out. Jacob Bryson, who had been called up, uh, is in the lineup paired with Rasmus Dahlin. Now, I will say I did not hate Bryson's game. Played very, very responsibly with Dahlin. Then we go to Power and Yogi Haru on that second pairing with Ryan Johnson and Connor Clifton. Paul, not Paul Hamilton. One of the Sabres guys was talking about how they thought Clifton had a strong game against the Kings, and yes, he was able to keep the puck out of the net. But there are times that they just got whenever the Kings got running around in the Sabre zone, it was Clifton on the ice, and made some questionable passes about trying to get the puck out of the zone, and yeah, sometimes it was his forward teammates that fumbled it, but apologies there. But yeah, I'd like to see more from Clifton. I'm not gonna hit him too hard on the fall in Anaheim. That I've never seen it before, but I guess it happens. And he recovered, and we'll hopefully better things. He's been playing better over the last apologies again over the last little bit. Um, I think he's feeling more comfortable in Buffalo, and maybe next season he's going to really kind of take off from where he's at right now. So, Sabres goalies last game before the breaks, we get Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen with Devin Levi on the bench. Again, I think moment the game's over and they start flying back east or let the team disperse. Levi's on the first plane back to Rochester. To get him some game action because it does him no good for him to be sent off for 10 days without game action when he's only had one game with Buffalo uh, in the week prior to the break. So Sabre scratches. Zemgus is day to day after his injury. Probably won't. Well, we definitely won't see him until the Dallas game. Olafson's a healthy scratch. Eric Johnson might come back. So we might not see, like I would expect Bryson to draw back out if Eric Johnson is pulled off of IR, but the Sabres would have to also do a corresponding move, which would probably be sending Jacob Bryson back down. Um, so Eric Johnson may be available, but I think the Sabres may just give him the game off and let him go back to Colorado and do his thing for the break and move forward from there. I fully expect Eric Johnson to be dealt before the trade deadline, um, unless the Sabres somehow get back into the playoff conversation. That is definitely one guy that's going to get moved. I've heard other things, perhaps Greenway gets moved. I think that would be a dumb move. But if Jordan Greenway nets you a first round draft pick, maybe you got to listen to it. I'm still not sold on us acquiring more draft picks at this point. We've got a pretty stock cupboard when it comes to prospects and draft picks and things like that. Let's see tonight's odds per DraftKings. Play responsibly. It's actually this afternoon's odds. for DraftKings. Buffalo are a goal and a half favorite, and the over under is 6. I'm sure that's just based off the fact that the last game was 3-0. San Jose is playing better. I don't know. This one might you might see some goals. Um, but again, don't take my advice when it comes to gambling. Three keys to the game: empty the tank. There's um, nothing else to play for at this point. Empty the tank and go into the break. Go wherever you're going to go, whether it's a nice sandy beach, somewhere in the Caribbean, or some home time with the kids. Empty the tank. Have a good game. Leave it all out there, and then don't take the Sharks lightly. They've played a lot better since we played them, and they didn't play bad against in the game that we played them. We again our issues starting a game on time um, is hard. Like that, that was one of the games where, like, yeah, we won, but if we weren't playing a team that was kind of a shell at that point, would we have won? And I think when we look at the Tampa game, the answer is no. Like the team that can score on us, take advantage of us not being able to score early and scoring early themselves. It was hard for us to come back. Anaheim the same way. Scored early on us. We never. It was very hard for us to come back. We did make a game of it late, but being down 3-0, that's hard to come back from. So don't take the Sharks lightly. Get out, continue that aggressive forecheck. That works. I'm not going to be mad if the Sabres are aggressive on the forecheck and somehow a puck gets through and a guy gets in alone on Luukkonen. I get mad when we are just back down into our zone and the team is using their speed and um, cycle play to get chance after chance. Um, if we lose because we give up a bunch of one and dones, okay, we can hang that on Luukkonen, but keep that aggressive forecheck going because it works. I think if you can put pressure on their defense, that's really the weak link on this team. The forwards are a competent group. The defense are a little young. You got a guy playing his first game, and damn if we didn't give up another player's, this time first point, um, in the Los Angeles game. We've had a propensity to give up, first goals and first points to players all season. So you circle Makamadulan because it's his first game, and let's not let this guy score on us. That would be nice. Um, So yeah, so keep the the aggressive forecheck going, and hopefully we can skate to another victory before the All Star break, and go into the break with a little bit, at least a not a great taste in our mouth, but a better taste in our mouth, taking 2 or 3 on the road. On this date, January 27th, 2009, Drew Stafford recorded a hat trick as the Sabres sent Edmonton to their worst ever defeat at home, 10-2. Um, Several other scorers: Thomas Vanek, Nathan Page. I mean, it was a bloodbath, um, and that was a good game and a kind of rather forgettable season, um, for the Sabres. But yeah, that's the this date. Let's talk about the farm. We've actually got some updates. We didn't have any updates for the Kings game because neither team had played since the Anaheim game. So the Amherst are 19-14, 3-1, and fourth in the AHL North Division. They lost to Utica tonight, or well, from my perspective, last night, 4-0. Of concern, I'm going to say is Uri Kulik. Um, he's on a 7-game goal drought, which extends back to the game before he left for Europe. Um, I'm not sure what the Amherst are doing with Uri. Um, Ever since he's come back from Europe, he's been moved off of the center position into the wing. And I'm not sure why they broke what wasn't broke. Now, do I expect this, like the he's going to go the rest of the season like it? he had this magical season between the time he went to the World Juniors last time and to the time he went to the World Juniors this time and is, irreparably broken. No, he's gonna start scoring again, getting used to his position on the ice, but I don't know. Developing a centerman who can score, um, maybe he was horrible in the faceoff dot, I don't know. But it is concerning. We're at 7 games and counting, and, and now the Amherst had a total lack of scoring tonight. Neither Roseanne or Biro or any of the guys that, on the lineup that are scoring for the Amherst scored tonight. Devin Cooley got the loss, gave up 3 goals. There was an empty netter at the end of the game. Um, and Eric Comrie was a scratch for the game, because they got 3 goaltenders there. It's the 3 goaltending headed monster. Dustin Tokarski was backing up Cooley, um, and maybe it's because they're saving Comrie to play Laval, who have been, for lack of a better term, and all puns intended, they've been on. They're a rocket rising up the standings. They are 8-1-1 in the last 10. They did lose the last time out, but uh, they have passed the Amherst in the standings. They're now third. Amherst aren't safe at all when it comes to the playoffs. Um, the two teams that are in first and second in the division, Syracuse and Cleveland. Cleveland's first. Are pretty safe. They're way up in the standings, about 50 points. Um, I think Amherst are at 42 or 43 points, and the rest of the division, Utica, who beat them tonight, is actually last in the division. They're at 38 points. So, the Amherst go on a bad stretch. They could be out of the playoffs. Um, which for a team with this much talent on it, it would be absolutely disappointing if they're out of the playoffs at the end of the season. So they need to figure things out. I would like to see them move Kulik back to center position. Um, right now, he's being centered by Tyson Jost, with Roseanne on the other side. Uh, Jost is a good player. I like Jost's game. He's got that drive. He always looks devious to me, but the focus should be developing Uri Kulik and having Jost play, where he's needed. So, um, but yeah, but better news on the farm comes to Jacksonville. The Icemen are 22-15-3. They're second in the ECHL Eastern Conference South Division. Third in the Eastern Conference overall. They ran all over Savannah tonight, 6-1, 6 different goal scorers. Um, and neither were Nadeau or the Giroux guy, that had been driving the offense for the Savannah or for the Icemen. But it's a home and home situation. So tonight it's going to be in Jacksonville against the Vegas Golden Knights ECHL affiliate. But yeah, good game for the Icemen and continuing to rise up the standings. They're ways behind they're chasing the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, the LA Kings affiliate in the ECHL. Um, don't know that they'll catch them, but if they can keep their momentum going, that's a good thing. They'll get home ice series in the playoffs. So let's see. Week ahead, nothing. I mean, there's the NHL All Star game, and I'm not even sure when that is. If we're getting the bye week before or after the All Star game, I'm assuming before. But it's in Toronto, and really ugly jerseys. I mean, I'm okay with doing bold things, but don't let Justin Bieber design your jerseys. That weird smiling leaf jersey that they've got, they should have told you not to let him design the jerseys. But yeah, bye week, All Star break. Hopefully the boys get tan, rested, and ready for the second. Not even the second half, but really final third of the season, and they can make a push to make it interesting for the playoffs at the very least. Um, and so yeah, that's it for the show. Our next episode Tuesday, February 6th at 6 p.m. versus Dallas, which is nice. I've got some travel coming up that this All Star break is hitting just right time for, so I won't be in town next week. So happy to have the break, and we will talk to everybody on Tuesday night, February 6th, when we take on the Dallas Stars. Should be a good test with the young, exciting Dallas Stars team. So have a good one, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you all on the 6th.